like to officially convene the session. Our two panelists, the leaders of the Computer History Museum, are an exceptionally rare breed. You very seldom find the combination of exceptional competence and humility that we have in both of our panelists. John Holler, CHM CEO and President, doesn't take credit for his successes. He would much rather give credit to his subordinates. He doesn't even want to be told that there was some amount of leadership and inspiration and charisma that he instilled on those staff members to get the job done so well. Len Shustek, the co-founder and chairman of the Computer History Museum, who transformed it from a child's museum into the Palace of Fine Arts of Computer History we now have, prefers to work underground. He prefers to remain anonymous, quietly get the job done on time and with excellence. So we're going to get to know these two individuals today, and then they'll make a short presentation on their successes and challenges that they had faced over the years. Each of our panelists have pedigree education. John doesn't like to advertise it because he's very modest and humble, but he got his bachelor's degree from SMU in Dallas, and he has a Doctor of Law degree from the prestigious Harvard Law School. Very few people know that he's a lawyer. He actually worked, and we can trust him too. He's one of the lawyers that we can trust, and he worked for the FCC in that capacity. We're going to be talking to him about that. Len is a trained physicist. He has a bachelor's and master's in physics from Brooklyn Polytech, but he was interested in computer science and came to Stanford and got a PhD in computer science, and then later taught computer science classes at Stanford University before founding two companies. Our two panelists are no strangers to the IEEE. Len is an IEEE Life member, and John has chaired a panel session that I organized last year on the race for microprocessor leadership in Silicon Valley, and also co-hosted a IEEE CHM meeting that was emceed by our own Brian Berg on from mainframe to smartphone. What a journey it's been. That was this past August. So let's welcome our two panelists. So can we get the rotating slides now, Len?
Sure.
We're going to get some slides now on the Computer History Museum.
We were showing those earlier.
Yeah, we were showing those during the networking reception. And these are some pictures that will flash as we start our initial Q&A. One of the things we want to accomplish at this meeting is to learn how the Computer History Museum was transformed from this kids' computer museum in Boston to the iconic place it is now. And at the September 26th meeting, Len, I think, was a bit shortchanged on time because he only talked about fundraising and being a would-be forklift operator to haul, that's right, to haul artifacts at Moffett Field in Mountain View. But we didn't learn how he was able to actually make a wonderful institution we now have essentially from scratch. Let's start with Len. What caused you to be interested in computers anyway? You got your master's degree in physics from Brooklyn Poly. Why did you decide to change majors and pursue a doctorate degree in computer science and come out to California?
I'd actually fallen in love with computers really early on when I was in
junior high school, middle school, IBM ran a program where they invited kids, I was in 7th grade at the time, to go to Manhattan near Columbia University for a weekend and learn what a computer was and how to program it. The computer at the time was an IBM 650, which was a vacuum tube machine with a drum memory and punch card programming. And I fell in love. That changed my life. I decided that computers were the coolest thing ever, and this was 1963. I was in 7th grade. But somehow it didn't seem like a profession, so I decided to do something that seemed more substantial. So I majored in physics and found physics interesting but very hard. And somewhere along my senior year at Brooklyn Poly, I finally decided, why am I killing myself? Why am I doing something that's really, really hard instead of doing something that comes easy to me and I like so much? So I decided to switch fields. So I stuck it out in physics at Brooklyn Poly, but then switched to computers, came to Stanford, and never regretted that decision.
Thanks. Len is also noted for something that's very, very interesting and rare. He started a company in 1979 called Nestar. Now, there's 3 reasons why that was rare. Len was a newly minted physics PhD. Bill didn't have any experience in business. How could he start a company? That was one. Second thing was that there really wasn't any startup motivation in Silicon Valley at that time. We were in a long-term equity bear market, so there was no exit strategy of IPOs. There weren't any mergers and acquisitions to speak of. Stock options were despised because they were all worthless, because stocks were going down for years. And then third, he founded a company in local area networks before there was even a local area network. So you put those all together, and were you crazy then or what, Len?
We probably were crazy. My PhD was in computer science, not in physics, by the way. And at that time, I was on the faculty at Carnegie Mellon teaching. But this was mid to late 1970s, and the personal computer revolution was happening all around us. And suddenly there were computers that anybody could afford, like Apples and TRS-80s and Commodore PETs and that sort of thing. We had grown up with the big mainframe computers and knew about the ARPANET, knew about how important it was for computers to share resources. And my business partner, Harry Sahl, whom I had met at Stanford in the early 1970s, came up with this idea of trying to apply the resource sharing of big computers and the ARPANET to these little baby computers, these sissy computers like the Commodore PET and the TRS-80. So he convinced me to come back to California from Pittsburgh, where I was teaching at Carnegie Mellon. He said, just take a temporary leave of absence, help me get the company started. Right? I think I'm still on leave of absence from Carnegie Mellon because I never went back. But that was the genesis of Nestar Systems. And yes, we had no idea what we were doing. We're a couple of academics, both of us. We didn't know anything about business. We didn't know anything about starting companies. But we knew that there was a germ of an idea here that would eventually be big.
At local area networks?
Local area networks of personal computers.
The yellow book, or whatever color book it was from Xerox, DEC, and Intel didn't even come out until 1980, and you started a local area network company a year before that. That was kind of gutsy, wasn't it?
It was. We designed our own networks. I was the VP of engineering, so I designed 2 different series of local area networks, neither of which was any good. But we were out there and we were selling networks mostly to schools, trying to network together Commodore PETs, for example.
And in the end it worked out, didn't you? Wasn't there an exit for Nestar?
There was an exit. We kept the company going till 1986. We had 100 employees at the time and we were making money. We had a little bit of profit. We sold it to Digital Switch Corporation of Texas. And I don't think they knew what they were getting, but it shortly thereafter disappeared.
Yeah, they're a telecom company in Plano, Texas.
That's correct. There's a question here.
Yeah, did you have any exposure to the PERT computer project at Carnegie Mellon?
I knew about it, but was not involved in it. I was not working on that. But Three Rivers Computer Corporation, yep.
You did have it was a personal computer with a network.
It was a personal computer at a very different price point, though, than the Commodore PET.
Jeff was also, Jeff Thompson, our senior volunteer, he was also a pioneer in new work on 3 megabit per second version of Ethernet for printers at Xerox around 1978, something like that.
Well, I was working on, I was using the 3 megabit network.
All right, good enough.
As was everybody at Xerox, but I was working on the laser printers.
I have another question.
Yeah.
When you came from Pittsburgh with a physics degree and Eastern culture, when you came to Silicon Valley here, did you find a lot of shocks here, a lot of hippie running around?
It was a strange change
I see.
because.
Remember, he didn't go to Berkeley, he went to Stanford.
I went to Stanford, but my first experience
You're confused,
arriving in the fall of 1970 was to watch the computer center under attack by students who were protesting military involvement in the Vietnam War. That was very different from what was going on in Brooklyn.
Let's switch over to John.